Thank you again for joining us today to talk through some more applications. My name is Ryan Clementson, Business Development Manager here at ToloTalks, and I've got a bunch of our sales team lined up to talk through some of their wins in the aerospace and defense market. So without any further ado, we will turn it over to, I believe, Keith Hogan will be starting off the presentations today. So Keith?
Thanks, Ryan. Good morning, everybody. Just thank you for being here on our Friday edition of the ToloTalks. My application win is in the aviation simulation industry. It's from a end user standpoint. The company actually made flight equipment. End user hydraulic replacement, and the big thing in any aircraft OEM is that they want to be able to simulate the different forces that the aircraft sees up in flight, and typically this has been done from a situation of hydraulic, and that was the reason that this came our direction, because they were interested in replacing hydraulics for all the various reasons, but not only maintenance and difficulty in installation, but the responsiveness of the hydraulics in this application was not as good as electric. And from their standpoint, what they would do is they would take the equipment, maybe it would be purposed for one situation, and then they would adapt it to another round of testing somewhere else. And when they did that, they found that moving hydraulics was not as easy with moving the hoses and plumbing, etc. So they found it very efficient in moving from place to place. Next slide, please. So the industry, as a rule, every one of them that goes down in some way, shape, or form demands more certifications. So the hardest thing to reproduce is the force changes during flight. And so there was a push not only to get better at that, but also to minimize the use of hydraulics in doing so. In our solution was the IMA, both 44 and 55. Many of you don't know it, but our IMA, in comparison to our competitors, has a much faster, in fact, almost twice as fast as XLR's electrical time constant. What that means, when it's given a command, it is the quicker to respond to that command. Part of it is our motor winding, part of it is the direct coupling, etc. And so that allowed them to create some of the forces that they would see in flight and be able to eliminate the hydraulics. They reduced the mess and it improved the plumbing, etc. They used IMA 44s and 55s. First project was 8 units, and now they're interested in looking at other areas in the plant as well to implement electric over hydraulics. So it was a really good win for us. We were chosen because of our electrical time constant and our force repeatability on the IMA. Thanks, Ryan.
Keith, we'll have you stay on. You had, I think, one more after this.
Okay.
No, I apologize. Sorry, this is Dave Schmidt is afterwards. Sorry about that, everybody.
No, this is Adam Farley's.
This is mine.
Right. Yep, sorry about that, everybody. I'm new to this.
Morning, everybody. This is a application, again, hydraulic replacement. This is an end user customer. This machine builder makes these for these guys. They're pressing and forming bullet casings, and the typical story with hydraulics, they're trying to be more accurate, more repeatable with this system, just because of the tolerancing in making these casings. Safety concerns are a big deal for this customer too. The having hydraulic hoses, the slip and fall, the safety from having leaks with hydraulics, and also the high cost of the operation of just running the compressors. High utility costs. When the servo motors aren't running, you're not seeing a lot of the energy cost is low. All right. So again, talking about hydraulics, we get these guys were seeing a lot of scrap. I mean, the feedback, they weren't getting the correct feedback with hydraulics either. So there was a lot of issues from seeing a lot of scrap, and then there was a lot of maintenance concerns as well, having the hydraulics. So next slide, Ryan. So a little better look here of how we're doing this. We got a RSX P096P press version up top, doing most of the work. There's a couple of these. They range from doing a 20,000 to 40,000 pounds of force. And then we have a smaller 80 underneath for an injector. Basically, it ejects these out and they get grabbed by a robot. This is actually a fast-moving project, like it says. We got orders pending, and again, sales value for Tolomatic and the distributor was just the combination of this project's been going on for a few weeks. So the value add from the distributor side was great. Supplying gearboxes, servo motor, drives, the whole deal. And then from us, sizing, these are all roller screw units. So sizing and selection's big. We want to make sure that we're not thermal overloading our nut assembly, the roller screw assembly in this unit. So we worked back and forth on the cycle time to this guy using our sizing software. So again, increased accuracy and repeatability was the win. Increased throughput is what we're going to get, and decreased scrap. Coming up with just a reduced overall cost from the assembly down the line. So the ROI would be, more throughput and reduced cost on the overall project. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Dave, now I've got back where I need to be. You've got the next two.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending today's session of ToloTalks. So piggybacking off of what Adam was just discussing there, in each of those housings, for those that are familiar with ammunition, needs to be a primer cap. And this was a customer that made these primer caps. Their pain point was that in the primer cap goes a highly explosive material where pneumatic or hydraulic cylinders are extremely dangerous. This was a high duty cycle application because we were indexing a vibration table up and down with the GSA, and then also aligning a platen that goes over the top and puts a film or a paper over the wet composite, basically the dynamite, if you will, that goes into the primer cap. And so they had previously used hydraulics, and as Adam had mentioned, this too had high maintenance and high risk requirements. So next slide. This is a generic photo of the similar to of the shaker table, the vibratory table, and due to the heightened demand, the customer needed to improve their throughput on the number of caps that they could produce in an hour, and they couldn't achieve that goal with the hydraulic or pneumatic cylinders due to risk because they were full index, point to point, and with ours we could do much faster speeds and cycle rates. So with the GSA, we met the customer's objectives. provided them a product that could be used in highly explosive clean room, and indexing the highly explosive plates as they're loaded with all of these primer caps, and minimize that risk over time. So, this is a multifaceted application win, in that it shows that our products can be used in clean rooms and extreme harsh environments, a lot of particulate around, and then high cycle rates and so forth. So it's a spreadable win on many different applications. So, thanks. The next one here is also an application win of mine, and this one was for a rotary wing flight simulator. Here again, we were doing high cycle rates and simulating the rotor vibration and the vibration on the joystick of the helicopter. We replaced an existing rotary cam with linear vibration actuators. Really took us to new levels with that, and I'll get into that on the next slide. This is a true ergonome for us. They build about, well, these machines or flight simulators are very high-end simulators for the DoD and various aircraft manufacturers. And so these aren't the type that you'd see in a mall or a entertainment type arena. So this is very critical, that we need to have the performance that they need to have the motion realistic and smooth and responsive, as Keith Hogan mentioned on the first application, when due to our electrical time constant, we can meet a lot of those objectives. So this was a good win where we beat out XLR in a competitive standpoint here. So next slide. So again, what we did is we reviewed these applications. This is showing a pod or a flight simulator. We are not the actuators that you see underneath the pod. We're actually inside the pod and moving the, as I said, the joystick and the seat. But at that being said, we're cycling at 50 hertz with an acceleration speed of up to 4G and forces of up to 1,000 pounds. So the IMA 44 that you see in there has been modified. It uses a very quick Heidenhain absolute encoder into it, and provides that smooth motion and quick responsiveness to the sim, and really does an exceptional job. It's been highly recognized throughout the world, and with some very high profile companies. So thank you.
And next will be Brian Staines from the Southeast. He's got about 3 that he's going to cover. Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Ron. Good morning, everyone. The next 3 applications are similar. I will show you the difference in all 3, but they are very similar. So the first one is a repeat part number OEM in the defense industry that makes wedge gates. So there's a few different kind of designs these wedge gates manufacturers have. Some being dual axes, some being single axes. The first one here that you see on the screen is a dual axis. So on the picture in the right-hand corner, underneath that cement barrier there, you'll have an actuator on each, the right and the left-hand side. So that'll be your dual axes. So the industry was a hydraulic industry for the longest time. Our competitors, they were the EPA and the government wanted to get away from hydraulics. So we were able to eliminate the hydraulic. With our IMA series, we're able to do some customizations from a manual override standpoint, which is very critical from a power outage standpoint, because these aren't your wedge gates that go into your car rental. These are going into the bases across the world and high security banks and things of that nature. So we had to meet an industry standard, which is Department of Safety has a K-12 rating on these, and some of our competitors were not as fast as they needed to be. So anyway, we've implemented our IMA 44 and 55, and we were able to get a 1.8 to 2.2 second move on these actuators. Next slide. So you'll see the special IMA 44 in the right-hand corner. We've got 3 actuators listed here, but that IMA 44, you'll see the manual override on the right-hand side. We put high temp lube or low temp lube in these things because, like I said, they are going all over the world. We meet an M50P1 rating, which means 50 miles an hour, 1 meter of penetration is the testing that all these wedge gate manufacturers have to pass in order for it to be able to go into the defense industry. This particular customer has done about $500,000 with us over the past year and a half. So IMA 44, IMA 55, we're able to customize it with brakes and manual overrides for that. So it was a really good win. Next slide. So this is a little different. So you have a non-lethal gate here. So there's proprietary technology inside the gate you see on the right-hand side of the screen. This is a repeat part number OEM as well. Our competitor here was Exlar. So the actuator is in the white holding tank there on the left-hand side. And they were having ingress issues and lead time and support issues as well. So we were able to customize the RSA line that we have, and we did some things to prevent some of the ingress, like putting some bellows on top of the actuator and doing some things on the rear end of the actuator to eliminate the ingress points. So we were able to, long-time customer of XLR, we cut down the lead times, complete motor solution drive, and they needed a drop-in replacement. So we got as close as we possibly could on the drop-in replacement side of things. Next slide. There's a video there, Ryan, if you want to play that for me. So this customer, we've been dealing with this customer for about 3 years now. Me and the distributor made a sales call first, and then we had their specialist come in with myself and internal support from ToloTalks. We coupled it with a Lenza motor and drive, purchased the first prototype and tested it for a good 6 months. And this customer here, again, has probably done upwards of $500,000 with us over the course of the past 2 years. And you can see they have different size gates. They go from a 12-foot gate all the way up to a 26-foot gate. But that's a non-lethal gate there you see. Next slide. Okay, so this is the same kind of wedge gate that I talked about previously, but in this design, if you'll look in the top right-hand side of the screen, there's just one single axis actuator under that middle red light. These wedge gates are the lethal wedge gates as well, but they have a spring assist on the right and left-hand side with our actuator, IMA 55, in the middle. Same thing here. We were able to customize it with brakes and manual overrides, because if they have a major power outage, you have to have a manual override in a government situation. So with the manual override, next slide, Ryan, we can show that. So if you see the manual override there, you pop that cap off. If you have a major power outage, you can pop the cap off and put a screwdriver, an electric screwdriver on that, and it will actuate that wedge gate up. So in 2014, it was a long process. We had made some calls to these people, and it kind of went dormant. Then 2018, we kind of started the conversation again, and finally they ordered some prototypes from us, and we got an initial blanket order for 10 units of the IMA 55, fully engineered, kind of a customized IMA 55 here. Very good solution. We've had a lot of experience in this defense and wedge gates applications. We also do some of the car rental gates, but they do not require the same standards as the Department of Safety. So overall, very good wins. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Brian. And next will be Bob Chunko from out on the West Coast. Bob?
competitor. Customer, oh, there we go. Okay, you guys hear me okay? Thank you. We had an entrenched competitor, and they were looking for better lead times, 100% duty cycle actuators, but it was a problem with service and difficulty in installation. So using a Tolomatic product worked out better for them. The application is a hexapod, so you have multi-axis configurability on that plate on the top. The actual application is classified, but it was one where we were able to displace a competitor, and the challenge here was to convince the engineers that we're used to working with this one company to move to Tolomatic. And after a couple sales calls, we were able to get a prototype in there, and just the quality of the actuators moved them completely to our side. Let's go to the next slide. So fairly quick changeover. We were able to deliver very quickly. Ease of service was a big point. Having our patented grease zerk on the end of the rod made this very effective for field service. We did use the YMH with an animatic smart motor. First order was 10 units, and then we had 6 units per system. And a very, very nice repeat project. So the company that's using the Tolomatic always looks to us for the actuators now, and we were able to displace a company known for their military applications. So this was a real good win for our distributor, and really helped them gain confidence in selling Tolomatic. Let's go to the next slide. This one here was another fun one, and it was an application that was a real pleasure to work on. We were joining rocket body segments for a titanium weld process, and the SpaceX was having problems with using a pneumatic and hydraulic solution to bring these rocket body segments together for the weld. You'd have uneven movement. You had to have integrated control. They tried servo hydraulics and servo pneumatics. Extreme heavy load, and we were only moving about 1.5 inches. So, but it was 52 actuators around the circumference of the rocket body, and very, very interesting application. So once we suggested using the RSA actuators, we did prototype type sales, and then we received the first order for 52 actuators. Let's go to the next slide. So there's your rocket body on the system, and it started in 2015, and we were able to prototype rather quickly. We sold 2 systems, 2 complete systems, 104 units, and as the missile launch for satellites and other deliveries into space continue, we expect to have additional possibilities for this customer. And like I said, it's a very, very well-known corporation, and it's a fun one to work on. We use the bronze nut, our BZ10, so we wouldn't backdrive, and it was just a real pleasure to work with my distributor. Great to work on an account like this that has such a high profile. Well, thank you. That's it for this one.
Thank you, Bob. And last but certainly not least, Rich Braga will have the last 2 applications of the presentation. So Rich, take over.
Hey, good morning. Thanks, Ryan. This is, of course, in the defense industry. It's a safety door lift. So picture a cement room, if you will, that has 5 or 6 windows that have to open and close. So what would go down a conveyor would go into this test room. They would fill propellant, and they wanted to do it in a safe fashion in case they had some sort of an accident. So it's an end user. So their requirement was to lift this window up or door and close it while they did the filling of the propellant. They wanted something really easy to program, something obviously that could move smoothly, and they needed some factory assistance for the solution that they chose. Next slide, please. The
Rich?
desire on this application then, was to use an ERD with the GD2 option. That's that sort of guiding option. And they wanted an all encompassing solution to use the integrated servo. So they got a prototype, tested it. We had some on-site training, so they were familiar with how to program this with an HMI. And they had a total solution, and it was 24 systems for this particular application. Next slide, please. This is a manufacturer of shotgun shells. As you can see there, the picture to the right-hand side. And this was a application where you're putting primers in a container, a tray, if you will. So it's an end user. They have several machines at this company making 20 gauge shotgun shells, 12 gauge shotgun shells, 28 gauge. So a whole bunch of shells being made. So they had a solution that was very old. They needed to come up with a solution with Tolomatic that existed and could fit in the kind of the framework of the equipment that they had. They wanted something that was going to be around for years and years, quick delivery, and they wanted to use their own motor and drive, so we were just providing a couple actuators. Next slide, please. So we selected, it's an XY application, so we have on the horizontal an MXE 25, it's traveling 14 inches, and then an RSA 32. And what happens is these primers come out of this process and they get put in a tray in a row, and then we're moving that tray to complete the whole filling of the tray of these primers. And it was an upgrade in their manufacturing process and sped up their whole time to fill these trays. So 14 systems throughout this facility, and it was a very, very good win. And we primarily got this opportunity because we have a very good distributor who has a great relationship with this customer. So that was this win.